"My dear friends," said the Count, "no doubt you are curious as to the day's events. As you may know, I was invited to the Kremlin for a tête-à-tête. There, several duly goateed officers of the current regime determined that for the crime of being born an aristocrat, I should be sentenced to spend the rest of my days in this hotel." In response to the cheers, the Count shook hands with his guests one by one, expressing to each his appreciation for their fellowship and his heartfelt thanks. Come in," he said. Together, the 3 staff members squeezed their way between the teetering towers of furniture. "If you would be so kind," said the Count, handing André one of the bottles of brandy. Then he kneeled before the ambassador, threw the clasps, and opened it like a giant book. Carefully secured inside were 52 glasses, or more precisely, 26 pairs of glasses, each shaped to its purpose, from the grand embrace of the burgundy glass down to those charming little vessels designed for the brightly coloured liqueurs of southern Europe. In the spirit of the hour, the Count picked 4 glasses at random and passed them around as André, having plucked the cork from the bottle, performed the honours. Once his guests had their brandy in hand, the Count raised his own on high. "To the Metropole," he said. "To the Metropole," they replied. The Count was something of a natural-born host, and in the hour that ensued, as he topped a glass here and sparked a conversation there, he had an instinctive awareness of all the temperaments in the room. Despite the formality appropriate to his position, tonight André exhibited a ready smile and an occasional wink. Vasily, who spoke with such pointed accuracy when providing directions to the city's sights, suddenly had the lilt of one who may or may not remember tomorrow what he had said today. And at every jest, the shy Marina allowed herself to giggle without placing a hand in front of her lips. On this of all nights, the Count deeply appreciated their good cheer, but he was not so vain as to imagine it was founded solely on news of his narrow escape. For, as he knew better than most, it was in September of 1905 that the members of the delegation had signed the Treaty of Portsmouth to end the Russo-Japanese War. In the 17 years since the making of that peace, hardly a generation, Russia had suffered a world war, a civil war, 2 famines, and the so-called Red Terror. In short, it had been through an era of upheaval that had spared none. Whether one's leanings were left or right, red or white, whether one's personal circumstances had changed for the better or changed for the worse, surely at long last it was time to drink to the health of the nation. At 10 o'clock, the Count walked his guests to the belfry and bid them good night, with the same sense of ceremony that he would have exhibited at the door of his family's residence in St. Petersburg. Returning to his quarters, he opened the window, though it was only the size of a postage stamp, poured the last of the brandy, and took a seat at the desk. Built in the Paris of Louis XVI, with the gilded accents and leather top of the era, the desk had been left to the Count by his godfather, Grand Duke Demidov, a man of great white sideburns, pale blue eyes, and golden epaulets. The Grand Duke spoke 4 languages and read 6. Never to wed, he represented his country at Portsmouth, managed 3 estates, and generally prized industry over nonsense. But before all of that, he had served alongside the Count's father as a devil-may-care cadet in the cavalry. Thus had the Grand Duke become the Count's watchful guardian, and when the Count's parents succumbed to cholera within hours of each other in 1900, it was the Grand Duke who took the young Count aside and explained that he must be strong for his sister's sake. That adversity presents itself in many forms, and that if a man does not master his circumstances, then he is bound to be mastered by them. The Count ran his hand across the desk's dimpled surface. How many of the Grand Duke's words did those faint indentations reflect? Here, over 40 years, had been written concise instructions to caretakers, persuasive arguments to statesmen, exquisite counsel to friends. In other words, it was a desk to be reckoned with. Emptying his glass, the Count pushed his chair back and sat on the floor. He ran his hand behind the desk's right front leg until he found the catch. When he pressed it, a seamless door opened to reveal a velvet-lined hollow that, like the hollows in the other 3 legs, was stacked with pieces of gold.